The 2023 Ballon d'Or France footballer is...
Who cares? The Ballon d'Or is often seen as the pinnacle of individual achievement within football. A golden ball that could match Mark Bellingham's that celebrates the best footballer in the world across the season. But after some controversial results in its history, is it really a true representation of the year? Is it for the best player in the world? And more simply put, does it actually really matter? Yeah, so it says here, the winner is I Show Speed. Now, I can already see what the fanboys are thinking. Oh, you support Messi. Oh, get off Ronaldo's dick. The Ballon d'Or is often used to measure the GOAT conversation, but that simply is not what this video is about. I know what side of the fence I sit on when it comes to the GOAT convo. It's Messi. But this is purely about a year-to-year basis of whether the Ballon d'Or is genuinely right. Whether it does reward players for being the best player in the world, or whether it's more political than that.
You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, you political bastard.
On Monday, Lionel Messi won his 8th Ballon d'Or. For his exploits across the last 12 months with PSG in League One, Inter Miami in the MLS, well, probably not those exploits, but also, more importantly, winning the World Cup with Argentina in 2022. Second place to his 8th win was Norwegian powerhouse Erling Haaland, with his former PSG teammate Kylian Mbappe in 3rd. Kylian himself, bless him, was mortified seeing his Ballon d'Or hopes and dreams get curb stomped right before his eyes. Kylian's dad was once again not too pleased. He's done it again! And Erling Haaland in 2nd. This man's on his way to the MLS right now as we speak to conduct a serious farmification. Meanwhile, Speed, well, he had his own reaction.
Bro, what? Ain't no way, bro. Hey, man, what? Now Ronaldo, bro, what?
If there's one thing that FIFA will do to the Ballon d'Or off the back of this video, it's probably ban him. Feature Kvaratskhelia thought he was Rafael Leao. Meanwhile, the poor kid was devastated on the way back from the event, realizing that Ronaldo hadn't even been nominated. Now, to be fair though, I actually thought Speed being at it was jokes. I mean, it's clearly, we know what FIFA are trying to do. Bring someone that's popping off online to really speak to the younger generation. And it couldn't have got a worse reaction than bringing out Big Shaq anyway.
She stepped on my crepes.
But other crowd members weren't as enthusiastic seeing Leo win again. Yeah, look, we get it, you're good, mate. I'd be 7'6" with growth hormones, so Cristiano Ronaldo himself was sat at home watching on as Lionel Messi grabbed his record-breaking 8th.
I felt betrayed.
Meanwhile, imagine that Neil Maupay is the reason, through the butterfly effect, that Lionel Messi won his 8th Ballon d'Or. Imagine Kylian Mbappe knowing his fellow countrymen did this to him. He's catching him outside Sainsbury's Paris, mate. Now, I mentioned the World Cup there in the intro, but let's go back to Qatar 2022. And in a nation with massive football heritage and totally sound human rights records, a last opportunity is about to arrive for Leo to win that heralded World Cup. And for Cristiano Ronaldo, a feat that neither of them have achieved in their GOAT conversation careers. Argentina look great going forward and in midfield once again, but defensively they look like they're lacking. And that shows as they end up losing to Saudi Arabia on game week 1. It's a disaster, but they would be inspired by some Messi magic.
Messi's hitting! Oh! That's what they came for!
A beautiful goal against Mexico would inspire his side to their first win of the tournament, and though a penalty miss would follow against Poland, he'd right those wrongs with a round of 16 masterclass and yet another beautiful goal versus Australia, before an absolute clinic versus the Netherlands. A disgusting assist to set up Argentina's opener, and then one of a few penalties Argentina would earn during that tournament, put them 2 goals clear before a spirited Netherlands comeback with some fiery scenes along the way. Now we're on to the semi-finals, and up next is Croatia. A Croatia team past its best, truly, but has worked miracles to get this far. He'd break down the wall of Novakovic from the spot and produced one of the most disgusting assists of the entire tournament for Argentina's final goal, sending Josko Gvardiol back to the Halloween store. Yeah, it was pretty bad, mate. I mean, thank fuck I was wearing a mask and nobody could tell who I was, get me? Then the final, France versus Argentina. The holders versus a potential Lionel Messi legacy. The scriptwriters were out in full force. Not that Clive Tilsley was too happy about it. Where art thou, Leo? An early penalty, and look, that was definitely the theme of this tournament as far as Leo's goal scoring was concerned, and he did get clowned for it afterwards, but at the end of the day, a penalty's given, you got to step up and actually score it, unless Wojciech Szczesny's in goal.
It's happened again.
Messi would score a brace in this final, getting Argentina's 3rd, but Kylian Mbappe at the other end was not having it, scoring a World Cup hat-trick, including an all-time iconic 2nd goal. For probably one of the best World Cup final performances or hauls ever. Argentina would win on pens. It would be an unreal tournament for Leo, completing football and cementing a legacy. But if we're basing Ballon d'Ors off big moments and the biggest game in world football, wasn't actually the best player on the pitch that day. That went to Kylian Mbappe. And Kylian won the Golden Boot for the tournament outright as well. As I said though, I mean, there were moments of magic from Leo against Mexico, against Australia, against Croatia, and of course in the final too. And it was genuinely beautiful to behold, even if his time domestically wasn't as he would have expected it to be. And speaking of the domestics, he'd get 57 goal contributions across the 22-23 season. In the same time period between Ballon d'Ors, and Kylian Mbappe would have slightly more, with Erling Haaland having significantly more, 77 across the 2022-23 season, and then the start of this campaign. But look, the Ballon d'Or isn't just about how many goal contributions you'd get, otherwise it would just be strikers winning it every year. I mean, it is mostly just strikers winning it every year. But should it be about what you do consistently across an entire season? How many big games you performed in, and not just about one specific tournament? Well, there's definitely been examples of that in the past, not just this year, even though it's a lot closer for 2023, don't get it twisted. Let's be honest, in 2018, Luka Modric winning the Ballon d'Or was probably a little bit of a surprise. He was unreal and won a Champions League for Real Madrid domestically, but if we're going to be totally honest, the main reason he actually won it was because of Croatia getting to the final of the World Cup. The World Cup is a massive weigh-in in determining who wins a Ballon d'Or. I mean, Fabio Cannavaro won in 2006, whilst being incredible obviously back in Serie A, but mostly for winning the World Cup. He then had a stinker of a time for Real Madrid. And just outright back in 2003, there was an actual federal offence of a robbery that happened, where Pavel Nedved may well have guided Juventus to a Serie A title and a Champions League final, but there was no way he was a better player than Thierry Henry across that entire calendar year. Definitely a top 4 player in the world for that season, but he absolutely dominated the voting, purely for being involved in a team that won a Serie A and then getting to a Champions League final rather than individual exploits. I mean, everyone in the entire world probably could have agreed that Thierry Henry should have won the Ballon d'Or at least once in his career. Unless you're from Ireland. He's only been disappointed that badly once since then, and that's when Kate Abdo got engaged. Jorginho finished 3rd, for fuck's sake, in 2021 because he was involved in teams that both won the Champions League and then the Euros against a very much unnamed nation. Now, don't get it twisted, right? I'm not going to completely demean these guys' performances during those seasons. Jorginho was being heralded as the glue in a Chelsea midfield. But was he the best player on the planet that season? No. Individually, of course not. He was just pretty influential in 2 teams winning 2 tournaments. And I guess, honestly, it kind of depends on what your stipulations are for being the best player in the world. You know, when I was talking about Jorginho being pretty influential in a Champions League win and a Euros win, a lot of people probably turned around and went, well, yeah, obviously that's why he came 3rd then. But for other people, it should be more about how good you are individually, whether your team wins things or not. You know, I mean, you can be a better player playing for Brentford than you can playing for Arsenal. In my eyes, Ivan Toney is a better striker than Eddie Nketiah. I'd put money on it. And so would he. But Eddie Nketiah has won more in terms of major trophies in his career. So would it be argued that Nketiah is better because he plays for a better team and has a better trophy cabinet? No, for me, Ivan Toney individually has done better in his career more recently and is a much more clinical goal scorer and would do better in that Arsenal side, whether he's in it or not. And that same logic can apply to the Ballon d'Or as well. You can have an incredible season. I mean, Harry Kane for Tottenham last year, the goal scoring he provided for that Spurs side, obviously overshadowed by Erling Haaland's exploits, but it was one of his best seasons ever, and he barely scraped into the top 20, having put in that season-long performance in the best league in the world. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Julian Alvarez, who, whilst is very involved in Manchester City matches right now and starts most games, was definitely not starting most games for Man City when he first joined them, yet finished 7th in the Ballon d'Or rankings because his overall trophy tally for the calendar year was very high, even though he wasn't really influential, particularly in winning any of those competitions, relatively speaking, compared to an Erling Haaland or Kevin De Bruyne. But at the end of the day, Elite Football Awards should be about elite football. So truthfully, I don't have a massive problem with some tournaments being weighed more than others, right? If you're gonna have a man of the match performance in a World Cup final, to me, and I'm sure everybody else, that means way more than having a man of the match performance against Rotherham United in the Carabao Cup. Important moments should be rewarded, but just having a big trophy haul when you weren't particularly involved in any of those trophies being won should not be the be-all and end-all. It is, as all things in life should be, a balancing act. And if you so happen to have put yourself and your team in a position to win a trophy and then you perform well in that major tournament, then realistically you should be rewarded for that, as Lionel Messi did and now has been. Is Erling Haaland unfortunate that the rest of the Norwegian national team isn't as good as Argentina's? Absolutely. I'll absolutely understand why people think Erling Haaland should have won it, but truthfully, it's for the good of football. He's gonna win like the next 9 anyway, so let's just... But what do you make of the Ballon d'Or for 2023 and the award as a whole? And early predictions, who is gonna win the Ballon d'Or for 2024? Let me know video down in that comment section. If you did enjoy this video though, feel free to slap a like on it, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.